Reza Abdullah, a Muslim man who had several previous convictions for race hate attacks on white women, spat in the face of a 9-month-old baby girl, then shouted, "White people shouldn't breed," at her mother. Now that act in itself should be shocking enough. That act should rightfully cause revulsion and anger from any right-thinking person. But that's actually not the most shocking part of this story. And saying that might cause you to raise an eyebrow. How could this story get any more shocking? Well, quite easily, as a liberal judge let this man walk free from court, deeming a racially aggravated assault on a 9-month-old baby girl as insufficient reason to send the perpetrator to prison. I read this from the Daily Mail, and I quote, "An attacker spat into a 9-month-old baby's face and shouted, 'White people shouldn't breed,' in a sickening race hate assault. Reza Abdullah left little Layla Jean, who was just 9 months old and in her pushchair, covered in saliva after the shocking street attack in South Shields last January. Newcastle Crown Court heard the baby's mother, hairdresser Rebecca Telford, 25, was out walking with the baby when the 33-year-old attacker approached without warning. Prosecutor Emma Dowling told the court, "He leant into the pushchair and spat into the face of her daughter. As he did so, he shouted or said, 'White people shouldn't breed.' The court heard that when the baby's stunned mother confronted Abdullah, he told her to 'shut the F up' and walked off." End quote. Now let's analyse this for what it's worth, as there's really very little to analyse, as the account of this event pretty much speaks for itself. However, it is worth stating that this attack was completely unprovoked and was carried out by a grown man against 2 defenceless and completely innocent individuals, a baby girl and her mother. What's more, this attack was motivated by racial hatred. The attacker chose his victims based on their ethnicity and his hatred for that ethnicity. And that fact was backed up by the victim's mother. I continue to read from the Daily Mail, and I quote, "In a victim impact statement, Rebecca told the police, 'I am completely disgusted and distressed that a grown man, regardless of race or religion, would spit on a defenseless baby in a completely unprovoked attack. If he had just walked by, I would not have even noticed him. There was no eye contact and no words had been exchanged. I had never seen him before.'" Ms. Telford added, "I believe he spat on her purely because we are white. I was a lone female and an easy target." End quote. And what adds to all this is that Reza Abdullah already had 2 convictions for racially motivated attacks on white women. But on this occasion, he was no longer simply attacking women, he was attacking a white baby as well. Yet the judge let him walk free from court. And let's finish reading from the Daily Mail to find out why. And I quote, "The judge referred to Abdullah's previous convictions and told him, 'You have got a problem, it seems to me, with white women.' The court heard after the attack last January, Abdullah spent time receiving psychiatric treatment in hospital, which has continued after his release into the community. The judge said Abdullah's deteriorating mental health at the time of the attack contributed towards the offence. Abdullah was sentenced to 8 months imprisonment, suspended for 18 months, with rehabilitation and mental health treatment requirements. The judge said society in general would be better served by Abdullah being allowed to continue his psychiatric treatment program. End quote. Yes, you heard that correctly. The judge, one Mr. Darren Preston, felt that although Reza Abdullah had a problem with white women, and although this was his 3rd racially motivated attack against white women, society in general would be better served by Abdullah being free to walk the streets. Now let's just imagine if the races were reversed in this case. If a white man had spat in the face of a baby of another ethnic group while shouting abuse at the baby's mother and telling her that she and her entire race shouldn't breed, that would not only have been a front page story, but there is no way on earth would the perpetrator of that crime walk free. In fact, I would be willing to bet a decent amount of money that the man in question would be jailed for a very long time. And rightfully so. And also, there is no way a white person would get to a third racially motivated offence without going to jail. In fact, white people get sent to jail for sending mean tweets. Remember the case of the young lad who sent rude tweets after black footballer Fabrice Muamba had a heart attack and died during a Premier League football match? Well, let me refresh your memory. I read this from the Daily Mail, and I quote, "A student who posted a series of racist comments on Twitter following footballer Fabrice Muamba's cardiac arrest has begun a prison sentence of 56 days. Liam Stacey, 21, caused widespread revulsion by reacting to Muamba's mid-game collapse by writing LOL, laughing out loud, F Muamba, he's dead, hashtag ha ha. He responded to criticism of that message with vile racist tweets." End quote. So here we have a 21-year-old young man who sent tweets about the death of a footballer. Now these tweets were certainly disrespectful and may have been seen by many as distasteful. But who was the victim in this crime? And what hardship did the victim suffer other than hurt feelings? Compare sending a tweet with spitting in the face of a 9-month-old baby girl, and then compare the sentences. The man who assaulted a baby, despite it being his third offence of that nature, was allowed to walk free. However, Liam Stacey, despite his crime being a mere tweet, was sentenced to 56 days in prison. And this sentence wasn't suspended. He was forced to serve his sentence. No one claimed that society would be better served if Liam Stacey walked free. Also, this case, the case of the naughty boy sending rude tweets, was front-page news, and his trial was heavily covered by all major news outlets. And at this point, we must also never forget the case of the man who left bacon sandwiches outside a mosque. He was jailed for a year and actually died in jail. And yes, sadly, you heard all of that correctly. In Britain, a man left 2 bacon sandwiches outside the door of a mosque and was jailed for a year for that crime. I read this from the Daily Mail, and I quote, "A man jailed for leaving bacon sandwiches outside a mosque has been found dead in his cell. Kevin Crean, 35, was halfway through a 1-year prison sentence he received in July after admitting the racially motivated attack on the Jamia Mosque in Bristol earlier this year. He was accompanied by Alison Bennett, 46, and Mark Bennett, 48, and Angela Swales, 31, who also pleaded guilty over the incident. A St George flag with the words "No Mosques" was also tied to the fence outside the building in Totterdown, Bristol, and shouted racial abuse at a worshipper. Bacon was tied to the door handles, and sandwiches made of raw meat and sliced white bread were left at the entrance, in what was described in court by the judge as an attack on England. End quote. This man died in jail while serving a year-long sentence for leaving bacon outside a mosque. Now, firstly, he got a longer sentence, a year in fact, for his crime, and was forced to serve his sentence. However, Abdullah, a man on his 3rd conviction for a race hate crime, was given only 8 months, just 2/3 of Kevin Crean's sentence. And on top of that, Abdullah's sentence was suspended, allowing him to walk free from court, which was, as stated earlier, apparently in society's best interest. Whereas Kevin Crean's crime was, according to a judge, an attack on England itself, which could only be punished by a custodial sentence. I think it's pretty clear what's happening here. But before anyone says that the case of Reza Abdullah is just an isolated one, it's not. Last weekend, it was reported that a young Muslim man who threatened to stab and kill people at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre was allowed to walk free from court. I read this from the Daily Mail, and I quote, "A Muslim thug who threatened to gun down and stab staff and audience members at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre because he hated the English has been spared jail. Rian Ali, 23, launched into an expletive-ridden tirade and told shocked theatre employees that he was going to get a gun and kill English pigs, and called them scum. And when the police arrived to arrest him, he branded an officer a racist white C. Astonishingly, hours before his foul-mouthed rant, Ali had appeared in court for racially abusing 2 security guards after flying into a rage at a hospital where he accused a security guard of not being a real Muslim. On Wednesday, he admitted racially aggravated offences, 2 of causing fear of violence and 1 of causing alarm or distress to people at the theatre. Ali, of Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire, also pleaded guilty to 3 charges of malicious communication. But he walked free after he was given a 12-month prison sentence, suspended for 2 years. End quote. So here we have a young man threatening to kill people, and branding the people he threatened to kill, white people, as English pigs. So essentially, this crime is racially aggravated threats to kill. But this young Muslim walked free from court. Also, this wasn't his first offence. Oh, and to top things off, he also racially abused the police officer who arrested him. But the judge let him walk free. He was given 12 months in jail, and that was suspended. But I guess it was just another case of it being in society's best interest for this criminal to walk free. I think these cases illustrate a very important theme, one of real inequality and real racism. And that inequality and racism is something that is being practiced by the legal system and the judiciary, who have proved themselves time and again to be biased toward ethnic minorities who have received much lighter sentences for much more severe crimes. On the other hand, the judiciary have repeatedly handed down much harsher sentences to white people who have carried out criminal acts that seem trivial compared to those carried out by Muslims who have walked free from court. There is real inequality in Britain. In fact, in Britain there exists a 2-tier legal system, one in which white people are treated as second-class citizens and are subject to much harsher sentencing than people from ethnic minority backgrounds. We live in a country where a white male was essentially handed a death sentence for leaving sandwiches outside a building, whilst men of immigrant descent can assault babies and threaten to kill people, yet they walk free from court. The judiciary is not only politically correct, but the judiciary holds a vicious anti-white bias. The judiciary no longer hands out justice, but instead they administer a system of injustice, a system that actively discriminates against the indigenous people of these islands. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help spread the message by liking and sharing it on social networks. If you want to hear more from me, please hit the subscribe button as new videos are posted every week. You can also read my book, The Fall of Western Man. It's available as a free ebook and in both hardback and paperback, and all the links are in the description below. Finally, if you want to join in the discussion with me, feel free to add me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. Also, you can now follow me on Gab, Minds and BitChute as well. Everyone's welcome.